back. We're back with Judge Penny Brown Reynolds, the Democratic, one of the Democratic candidates for the position of Secretary of State, who's heading to a runoff. And before we went to the break, she was breaking down for us some of her qualifications that poises her to be the best fit for this particular position. So now let's get into a little bit of the Secretary of State's role here in Georgia, what's happening right now. There are a lot of people now who are just trying to say we should only have ballots that are hand ballots, written ballots, paper ballots. Where do you stand on that particular issue, Judge Penny?
Yeah, I think that, I'm going to take a stand where people would say, I think that when we have the brand new machines that's coming out, I think that that's going to be good. But I do believe that if there is a way for us to produce a record for people to be able to have that, I think that will be very, very important. What we have to do is produce a clear voter verifiable paper record that ensures that people can have public confidence. What has happened? They poisoned the well. They poisoned the system. And we never had a system before in America where people thought that these elections were stolen or somebody meddled in them. And so what I want to make certain that we do is make certain that it's secure. We comply with all of the federal and, state laws. But I am in favor of us producing a clear voter verifiable paper record because I think that will, in essence, that's something that the voter could take with them. We need to be able to produce it. That's the whole point of the legislature was supposed to go back in with these QR codes. And so I am in favor of making the electorate feel as comfortable as they can. But I do believe we're going to be having brand new machines. There's a RFP out right now that's going on. By the time I come into office, that selection probably would have already been made. And so I do believe in voter verifiable paper record. I don't know how others feel about it, but I do. I want to make the voter feel as confident as I can that everything is accurate, and I need public confidence. That's the only way we're going to be able to get rid of this scourge of doubt that is across this country and in Georgia about our elections. And I believe whatever we have to do to make, voters feel comfortable, I'm for that.
All right. Thank you for that. And that's one of the things that's really important is to have voter security for people to feel like their votes matter and that the votes are being counted. So what else do you think you're going to bring to the table? You know that the state election board is always trying to erode some of the authority from the position of Secretary of State along with the legislature. When they, not this term, but last term, they try to take away some of the powers from this particular office. How would you operate? Let's say you win Secretary of State and we don't win necessarily the governorship, which that probably will not happen. But I'm just saying, how would you operate still in a Republican-controlled situation and you're the Democratic Secretary of State?
That's a very great question and a question that is not asked enough. I think the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys asked that question in my interview when I got their endorsement because they understand the political climate that we have. What I'm going to do, I have to follow the law. And we had Senate Bill 202 that put a lot of restrictions, and thank you for sharing that with people because I don't want them to think I'm coming in to be a savior. We have to save ourselves. That means I have to follow the law. So let's give you an example. The Constitution, I used to be a part. When I say used to, I'm talking as though I'm the Secretary of State. Secretary of State chaired that elections board. Was done because you wanted an elected person that was accountable to the citizens to be accountable when it came to elections, not partisan people elected by state legislators. That dilutes the people's accountability. So for people who are trying to support that and they're trying to say, what's the harm in it? The harm is, as Secretary of State, I will be directly accountable to you. But when legislators appoint their friends and people who are biased and flunkies, if you will, they're accountable not to the voter, but to the legislator that puts them on the board. So that's one of the things that we have to really be mindful of when they're making these changes. if the law says, and the law currently says, that if people didn't vote for 5 years in certain elections, I'm required to what they call purge. That all that means is cancel their voter registration. It started with Kemp, we understand that, and then Roethlisberger and Gabe Sterling, which is why both of them are out now. They didn't get elected because I believe people are sick and tired of the games. I will have to follow the law. But you know what they didn't do? The Secretary of State could have gone around the state and registered people. If you told me I had to cancel out 500,000, then why not try to re-register or register 800,000 people who are eligible to vote? So there are ways that this can be mitigated. And as the chief elections officer, consistency is big. Dee, I'll give you an example. Right now, we have a runoff coming up, and it starts on June the 16th. Early voting starts on June the 8th, but there are some counties like Fulton and DeKalb that are doing Saturday voting and Sunday voting. So it's not consistent. The Secretary of State said, well, let's just do that 1 week, and we'll let the counties decide on whether or not they want to do it on the weekend. Well, for me, when you have consistency, you have transparency. People shouldn't have to run around on all these different sites to see what my county is doing for registration. But to support the rural counties, they don't have the money that the bigger counties have. And I want to be able to see everybody funded as much as we can at the same rate. We have 159 counties, and I want 121 of them because I went to those counties, because I care about those people, because somebody needs to be a voice for them. So the Secretary of State must follow the law, but that position gives you a lot of executive power as a constitutional officer. And because I've been in state government, because I've worked with the legislature, because I've worked in the federal government, I know how to use the levers of government to be able to work for the people, not for my own personal agenda. That's irrelevant in this. It's about fairness. That's why when I took the oath to be the only sworn oath to uphold the Constitution as a judge, that ought to say to everybody right there, she can do this work. And not only that, I've managed complex systems. When I ran an agency that was larger than the Secretary of State's office in the federal government, turned that whole agency around. So thank you for that question, because I have to be able to work across the aisle with everyone. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own truth. And there's got to be a common place. I think being a member of the clergy, being a pastor, I understand that I'm going to fight for righteousness. I'm going to fight for justice. But we're not going to play games and pretend that everything is equal, because it is not. It is not. That addresses what you were talking about initially.